podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 90, and tonight we're going to be talking to our special guest, and of course we'll be talking the British invasion of the UFC from last night, among other things. But we are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications to get all our shows first. And if you prefer your podcast in audio form, we are now part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first sports podcast network. You can find every show produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation, every series there. And of course, they have daily Premier League podcasts as well as many other shows and sports and everything there. Just check it out, sport.social.co.uk. But with no further ado, let's get into it. We have, first and foremost, my co-host, a returning former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend. He is back from the dead, Mr. Danny Batten. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, a lot better now. You ain't getting rid of me so easy. I bet you was thinking, yes, I've got rid of him. No, mate, I'm back.
The thing is, you're if nothing else, you're reliable. You've never let me down. And me and Luke were on Wednesday. We kind of sat there. It was like 5 o'clock, and I was like, "Danny's not in. That's weird." I'll send him a quick text because he is always like quite late, but he's always there. No answer. I was like, well, I'll give him a ring because he did say he was going to do it if he was feeling up to it. And I gave you a ring, and you were asleep. But there we go. Yeah. But you were rough. We know that. That's fine. Everyone, it's going around, isn't it? But I'm delighted to say that for the first part of tonight's show, we are joined by special guest, Bellator MMA welterweight, Mr. Lewis Long. How are you, buddy? I haven't seen you for a while.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Okay, glad to hear you're feeling better, Dan.
Yeah, cheers, Lewis.
Yeah, life's good, mate. Life's good, really. Yeah,
I was going to say, but it's probably been about a year, I think, because we had you on twice in a short space of time. I think last time, I think you filled in for Danny when he was in Fight Island, and then we did a show with you, and then the week after, I think it was, but it was a while ago. So we've, like I said to you just now, we've changed up the format a little bit. So we're having the first portion of the show. We like to have a chat to the guests about their career, which previously we hadn't necessarily done. It was more about getting the guest on, but it was kind of using their knowledge to analyze the fights and stuff. So it's quite unique in a way to have someone who's been on twice before, but only now are we really going to dig deep into your career and your MMA skills. Not your skills, your story. I get it. Is a better thing. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get into MMA? Like, where did your journey begin?
A few of my friends doing judo, and they wanted me to join, and I didn't really want to do it. I remember still to this day standing outside the dojo in Pontyclean, community centre, crying, going, nah. I must have been about 18, but no. I think it was like 10, 11, something like that. And just didn't want to go in. And then like you see it so often with kids' classes, as soon as they get on the mat, they like I did, they loved it, and couldn't wait to go back. So yeah, started with judo, and just enjoyed it.
Just kind of went into that. Were you like any good at any other sports? Any interest in other sports? Like at that age?
Well, I think like a lot of martial artists, they find that they get, especially around the UK, they get pushed into rugby if you're physical and stuff like that. And I was always physical and stuff. I was good at every sport, but it was very clear that like, I enjoyed fighting a little bit more. So I just ended up sticking with that.
I had to find a way to channel it.
Yeah, sticking with that. But
no, I like that though. That's good. I mean, obviously, being a Welshman as well, I'm sure you were. There's always that rugby influence, whether you like rugby or not. People want you to play it. But some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah, I was getting into fights with people going, "You play rugby?" I go, "No, I don't." I don't know. Yes, you do. I go, "No, I don't." Like, do you know how I know you play rugby? I don't. I wonder why. Like,
you do play rugby.
Boys. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck. I'd be like, yeah. But yeah.
That's one of the questions actually, which comes up a lot over the various shows from the viewers. Is like when you're out and about, like on a night out and stuff, as a fighter, and you're just having a few beers with your partner or your friends or whatever. Do you get, or maybe not so much now, or maybe when you were younger, do you get people who try it on and want to sort of have a scrap with the professional fighter, I guess?
Yeah, when I was younger, I think a lot of people like look at you as if you're trying to prove something like you're better, or I don't know. When I was younger, there was a lot more of that, but now I'm a little bit older. It's not so much that people challenging me. It's like I go to a quiet local where I don't get bothered. But it's just having that programmed response all the time. I popped on, for a Coke last night and just to a local, but it's busy, and everyone like, everyone means well, don't they? But you go, wait, fine, I was training, I'm going to win this one, oh shit, hey, thanks for the support, man, are you okay? Oh yeah, it's good, man.
Same conversation 6 times.
Yeah, wait, fine, Are you in UFC yet? Fuck you.
That's got to be a question you get like time and time again.
You almost made it, Lou. You almost made it.
Almost made it. Second biggest company in the world.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. I kind of did, but you don't want to go into it, do you? But cheers, always. But that's what it mainly is these days. I think it's not me like coming up and people think, oh, he thinks he's hard. It's like, well, I am.
It's just the way it is.
It's the way it is. So
yeah. No, it's interesting because with Bellator is the second biggest MMA company, combat sports company in the world, isn't it? And but people still associate it with you've got to go to the UFC to really have made it, and it's like, well, not necessarily, They, of course, they're the I don't know what you call them. They're like the franchise, and they're the biggest company in the world. Of course they are. Everyone knows that. But there's, Bellator is not exactly some regional show paying tippence and, putting on small cards. They're putting on some incredible cards. And I mean, way back, we used to do shows when we first started doing shows. I was quite critical of Bellator because I felt like they weren't focusing enough on young talent. I felt like they were bringing, I'm talking like the time when you'd have like Rampage and people almost like these freak show fights before they were popular. Yeah. But I think me and Danny both said recently, Dan, haven't we? Probably the last 12 months, 18 months, the Bellator cards, which they've been putting on, have been incredible. and obviously the BBC deal, so people can watch it free and stuff like that. And terrestrial TV is obviously a bonus as well. But they've made some phenomenal signings, including obviously fellow Welshman Brett Johns, and there was a few others that are all around the same time. I mean, as a Bellator guy, you've got to be excited that they're signing those guys, like big names. Like Brett Johns is not, he's at his peak, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And he was on a win streak. Is that exciting for you as a Bellator fighter, or are you only interested in your weight division?
Oh, I don't even care about my weight division. I have known Brett since we were kids. And I think it's great. And I wish he was on. I wish we were on the same card together. Because years ago we used to share the same mats. But I think with Bellator being about and looking at more regional fighters, it's like UFC is great and stuff, but they've how many fighters are there out there? There's a lot of fighters that aren't fighting because there's no money in it. They got to have a family to look after. You know what it's like, guys. A lower level, it's same in any sport. But if having one premier promotion is not going to suit anybody, having a rival promotion that can rejuvenate these type of fighters they're not past. None of these guys are past their peak. Are they? Look at the guys on the guys on the card. Some of them haven't heard for ages, and now that they're getting paid properly to fight. And they know they're not going to be going to UFC, but they're good. The fights are going to be absolutely fantastic. It's not like they're not worthy of it. It's just not enough room in the sport, is there?
No, everyone can't be in the UFC, can they?
No, that's it. And it's very you lose a fight, you're out a lot of the time.
Oh yeah,
you think if you were a football player, how many Welsh football players there are? Is loads. There's been thousands. How many Welsh guys in top promotions? It's 5, 6, 7. So,
yeah.
But yeah. I mean, like the card I'm fighting. Honestly, I'm just digging at football. Fuck them. But the card I'm fighting. I don't think there's many bigger welterweight fights or bigger fights you can make at the moment, other than. Unless it's not just Bellator, it's UFC, then MVP and Lima.
Yeah,
that's a huge fight. It's a huge fight. I know it's my division as well, but I don't even think it's just incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's a massive fight, and I got to say, I was pleased when Bellator announced that they were going to start publishing the rankings and stuff like that. I thought that was another step forward, and that's what I mean. They've made some real good step forwards in the last couple of years, and I think but I was also a little bit disappointed. I think they only did top 10, didn't they? Or they've released top 10, because I was thinking top 15, and I was thinking you'd have a good chance of being in that top 15 for the welterweight division. Yeah, is that the aim for you? Try and get fighting those the ranked fighters and get up in that top 10.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. I 2-1 in the promotion. I was when I lost the guy. What was that name? Encamp. He was put number 8, and I was like, yeah. I was a bit like, I want that fight again. I don't call for fights often, or especially rematches. But I felt like I was winning the fight. I made a mistake, but and to see him in there after I lost to him and he won one more. Just to see that I'm just a step behind. A step. I just made a little trip up. To see. So I'd be calling myself the unofficial 11th or maybe 12th. Just but yeah, I look at most of those guys in there. And I think there's going to be big changes soon. I beat Jurassic Park, whatever his name is now, and I'm going to be in there. There's no way I can't. I don't think. But if not, I'll fight again and I'll be in there. There's no science to it. You keep winning fights. You move up the ranks. Yeah. The
thing is, you lost to Encamp, but then you've won 2 fights since, and I think obviously you won on Grapplefest, and which is a grappling bout, and then you beat Mielo on the Bellator card. So just as he's gone on and won another fight after he beat you, if you hadn't made that mistake and lost against him, then you probably would be in that top 10. So I think it's a fair shout, isn't it? And what that goes to show to me, Dan, as well, with Lewis's loss to Egenkamp, he said he made a mistake and that it's game over. And I think that shows why Bellator is full of quality fighters, because you make one mistake and it's game over. And I think that shows the quality of the opposition, it shows the quality of the fighters which are in there. And that's exactly the same as the UFC, isn't it? If you make a mistake, you ain't going to get back up from it, or you're going to get punished for it 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, it's a sport that's getting ever increasingly more difficult for fighters to shine. You know, it's so cutthroat in that top 15. Not easy to strive. But, you know, all these guys, it's based on just getting it right on the day. It's about all things just lining up well, keeping that good attitude, and just, you know, just doing the do and doing the dance, and just dance a little bit better than your opponent on the day. You know, Lewis, as we know, he's right up there. He's right up there amongst the mix of things, and still learning his craft to a certain degree, which, you know, I'm sure he admits, you know, by saying he made his mistake. But from those mistakes, I'm sure he'll learn from them, and, you know, he's just going to get better and stronger, as far as I'm concerned. I just can't wait to see you get back. Yours is coming up, though, right?
For
how much longer we got?
1st of October.
Okay,
yeah,
it's not far at all, is it?
Yeah, it's
4 weeks.
coming up.
Yeah, 3 weeks of training, 4 weeks to the fight, like sort of thing.
Yeah, because I had messaged you back along, so I was thinking, what the hell's going on with Lewis, man? I want to see you getting in there, so I threw you over a message, didn't I, a few months back, just trying to find out what's going on. I just want to see you get back in there. And you know, sometimes I feel like in Bellator they have fighters waiting in the wings way too long, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, that's how I feel, and I felt like you should have been getting opportunities to go in there a whole lot more than perhaps they was, you know, giving you. So yeah, I'd just like to see you get a little bit more active, and I think as soon as your activities increase, I think we'll see you smashing into that top 10.
That's it. Just work, you know, win this fight now, then it's going to be like stateside dead, isn't it? I mean, that's what I was waiting for. I mean, they were doing shows stateside and not European, so it's just been a case of waiting for, you know, everything to subside a little bit and get back on it. You know, it's that's what it's, you know, as I said, I got to win fights. I can only do what's in front of me, you know, and you know, like, so it's almost been a year since I fought last, but it doesn't feel like a second's gone by either, you know. You know, we stayed in the gym, stayed training, you know, the score, you know, and the boys, they know I mean. If you could be as active as you wanted to be active, so how many fights would you say is perfect for you in a year? Well, I used to love doing competitions. So I used to love doing like one or two a month, and then like knocking on the head 4 weeks before a fight. So I used to be competing, you know, like around Europe in jiu-jitsu, you know, judo, or anything I could, you know. But now with like the stakes being so high, you know, I can't risk getting my knee popped in a, you know, Welsh Open or you know something like that. For the sake of just wanting to compete. You know, ideally just once every three to 4 months, you know, where you get a week or two downtime, then off you go again, work on a couple of things in a couple of weeks out.
Right.
Lewis, what in terms of your opponent, Uros Jurisic, do you know much about him? I was just having a quick look. He's ranked, so in the regional rankings, because obviously I knew this before I looked, obviously. He's ranked 9 in the regional rankings for welterweights in the United States, 2 in Florida, and 5 in the southeast of the United States. So I mean, as far obviously I don't know how much that tells us, but I mean he's up there in terms of the regional scene at least. Do you know much about him in terms of anything to sort of be wary of or game plans?
Yeah, I mean he fought on the same show as me. When he fought the same opponent as I fought before, so I could sort of gauge, like, you know, height, how he fights, you know, how you know, I can look at him against that opponent and think, how did I feel in those situations? And see his reactions. Yeah, if you take, like, normally I'm a little bit not crazy, but like overlook things and just go, fuck it, let's have a fight, you know. But no, we've brought things back, you know, coaches looking over the fights whilst we're also drilling techniques, finding what we think will work, what I find physically will work, you know, and talking it over, going through game plan type stuff, which is something I don't really do a lot. I just work certain areas with certain coaches, but now we're all bringing it together a little bit more. So sort of on the all on the same page. He's a dangerous fighter. Like he's short. I think he's a little bit shorter than me, which is strange. You know, in the welterweight to have someone under 5 foot. 5'9", I think I am, or 8. You know, I don't like to admit it, but
I thought you were much taller than that.
Yeah, thank you. He just short and wide. I am.
No, see, it makes me feel better because I tell people I'm about 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah,
so that's fine. I tell people I'm 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
I don't think I am.
I always used to lie, but you know, they actually measure me now, so I can't get away from it. But yeah, so I think it's interesting because he's got to fight a certain way. Like, you know, he's always got to take those risks to come into range as well. You know, so he typically, you know, likes to step in and throw. So yeah, I think he's just.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a fucking first round. It's going to be a first round of mayhem.
Yeah, I noticed that you both fought Walter Gahadze, you both won by a rear naked choke. So maybe Walter's got a problem with rear naked chokes. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
he's lost his last 3 rear naked chokes.
Has he really? Jesus.
Yeah,
but like you beat him in a minute 44, and Euros beat him in 3 minutes. So obviously,
yeah, I watched the fight.
That tells us everything.
Watched the fight backstage for that, and Walter throws these low calf kicks there, but he sort of stays out of range and throws them as well. So you don't feel like you can reach him. And I never believed in calf kicks till he hit me with them. And so I know how much whip and how much power he gets in them. But to me, when I watched that fight, it took him a lot longer to change the game than I sort of did. I think so. His IQ is a little bit lower in the fight, you know. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think
it'll be interesting.
It's going to be one of those fights that I think if when it goes to the second, I sort of find my jabbing range, which is something I haven't done for years. It's good. It's going to be nice. And I'll be able to show off my actual striking skills because, as I said, you know, normally when you've got to take the risk to come into range, you know, I tend to be, you've got to let something go, haven't you? And you take the risk, like, you know, so, but this one is nice, like it's quite evenly matched height and stats wise, and I think the scrambles on it are going to be great because he likes to punch his way in, and you know, it's like you train for everything. I personally believe that I can beat him anyway. I know I'm going to beat him anyway, but you know, it's a cracking fight. You know, I was offered someone else, and I was a little bit like. Not excited about it, and they're the ones you end up losing, you know. But this one I was like, oh fucking hell, I know this guy. Like I've seen him about. I know he's, you know, he comes in to throw fire, and you know, it's nice. It's not nice, it's scary, but you know, it's good to be excited about a fight, scared about a fight, have those nerves. Well, that's what we live for, really, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it? I can see it being a good fight. I got to be honest, it got me excited about it. Just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, I can't wait for this shit.
He lost his last one to decision, right? And at the end, the guy who won came over to shake his hand and suplexed him. Do you know if you saw him? Yeah, okay, SW. He went to decision, and Euros lost. And his opponent then came over to shake it. Looked like he was coming up to shake his hand. Suplexed him. They started going after it again.
Oh, wow!
So you gotta watch yourself KSW, after the fight, then.
KSW,
like. So when you go to shake his hand after the fight, you gotta get your suplex defense down, just in case.
Crazy,
madness. Right, we'll throw to a couple of questions from the live chat. There was a discussion going on about why your nickname is Footlong. Some people speculated that it was to do with Subway. Some people speculated that it was just a play on words. What is the legitimate answer?
We're going to tap into his porn career. That's what we're going to be tapping into now.
He's just preparing for his post-fight career, working for Pornhub.
And everyone's got a fan zone, you know, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it, innit? That's it. Everyone's going.
But basically, when my first fight came about was, MC Ricky Wright. I started training with him and a guy called Denzel. And a month later, after just learning what MMA is, really, Ricky rings me and says, "Oh, do you fancy a fight?" I said, "Yeah, go on." Well, not with him, but yeah. And so then I fought a couple of weeks later, and he was the MC, so he said, "Right, you've got a few options here. You can pick one, or I'm picking it." So it was obviously the foot long, oblong. Or la 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 la. I wish I went. I wish I went with the la 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 long.
Yeah, that'd have been quality. That would have been quality. I gotta say.
So, yeah, but yeah, I shout out to Nick. Like, he sponsors me from Subway. Like,
yeah, there we go. That's the way. Yeah, absolutely. So I was good. There was a couple of questions. Where's that question gone? I wanted to read. So Donna and Reese were saying about like in football, for instance, when you've been out for a long time, they say they can be fit, but they're not match fit. Like they need to play in actual games to get up to speed. And they kind of were asking about that in MMA and fighting. And I like ring rust, I suppose, isn't it? But like, how much can that play a part in your preparation for a fight and things like that? Because obviously with COVID as well, you've had a massive delay between fights, training issues, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I've never been out of the game. You know, I know it's been a year, but as I said, it's been a second for me. You know, I've never been out of the game. You know, as I said, I'm in the gym all the time. I'm prepping the boys to fight. I'm sparring with the boys who got fights. It's my gym as well. So when the gyms were closed, I was still going down there. Still working on. It's my job. You know, and it's a job I go out with a passion as well. So, whereas if I maybe couldn't do my usual sort of boxing training with partners, I'd be doing something else to challenge myself. You know, I do a lot of rowing, a lot of kettlebell work. You know, so yeah, I get that with football playing. You know, and the same with the fight. Same with fighting. If you're outside the gym and you're not in the gym, then it's going to have an effect. You know, you see fighters that go out of the gym and come back and they're not the same. But you see the fighters who've had like a hiatus, but they've just done it to take, I call it a gun to your head. You know, when you got fights coming up and you're in the mix, you've got a gun to your head all the time. You know, like, right, my weight's got to be sort of this, even when you're outside the camp. But, you know, when the fighters stay in the gym, they do come back fine, I think. As long as it's not too long, you know. Because, you know, it's like riding a bike.
I think
riding a bike, just for these. You know?
I suppose the difference as well with fighting is like in the gym is when you're preparing for fights, even if you haven't fought in a pro fight for like a year or two or 18 months, whatever it may be, like you can still do legitimate sparring with professional fighters, with top fighters, top grapplers, top strikers. So you are like the preparation is, you can have legitimate competition, can't you, in the build up to a fight in the gym. Whereas I suppose with football, it always feels like training, I guess, right? Unless you're playing against another team. I would have thought, you know, that's the way I would look at it. But
again, as you said, like it's going to be loads of you on the pitch. When you're out, you're sort of sat completely out. You know, with fighting.
Yeah.
You're still in the gym with the boys because they're all in the same boat, didn't they? We're all waiting. Well, should all be in the gym waiting for fights, you know. But
yeah.
But yeah, you know,
Rob, go on, mate. No, go on, mate.
Is there, you know, as fighters, yeah. How many people do you see with just to get that opportunity? They're fit. They need 1 or 2 weeks prep just to get the weight off, and they're signed and they make a name for themselves, you know. And it's a hard life as a pro fighter, but you gotta stay in the gym, like you gotta stay in the gym.
Rob Boyle says, when you talk about not being up for a fight, so I think he's referring to when you said they offered you a fight and you were like not particularly inspired by it. Yeah. With those sorts of things where you got offered a fight against someone who maybe, you know, is not, you don't see as much of a competition, or it's just a fight you don't fancy, is there just how much does like the financial side of things make a difference to that for you personally? Like, would you take a fight that maybe you weren't that interested in if they gave you more money, or are you more about the like the fight being right as opposed to the financial side, or a mix of the two, I guess.
Well, it has to be a mix of the two, doesn't it? You know, like, even though I said I was not up for that fight, it would have been a win on my record. It would have been a payday on my record. You know, it's not. And again, it's as we spoke about before. It'd have been me active. It's not. It's not like it's not like a fight I don't fancy, but you know, it's not a fight that scared me so much. And yeah, you know, it's like I like martial artists. You know, I like to challenge myself, and personally, like, I didn't believe you'd be the same caliber as me. But you know, you still got to fight. You still got to accept these fights. You don't know until you get in there and do it. So financially, you know, you're not in this sport for financial gains. You know, you're lucky if you get to sort of where I'm at, and now you can actually earn a good bit of money. But money doesn't play in there. Like, you know, it's just you got to fight, get active. The more fights you have, the more money you win anyway. So,
yeah, unfortunately, that's like the drum we've been beating for the last couple of years. Is MMA fighters do not get paid what they should. But it's unfortunately, it's just the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Even the journeyman come to kick your ass. You know, it's not like boxing. Yeah. You get a journeyman, he's still coming to kick your head in. You know, he's not going to
point to proof. Oh yeah. Right, Lewis. Just before we let you go, mate, I want to play something called the one-word game. Quick fire questions. I'm going to give you 7 names from the world of combat sports, and you just say the first thing which comes to mind when you hear that name. So nice and easy to start. Lewis Long, the one-word game. Conor McGregor.
Tool.
MVP. Yeah, rich. MVP.
Fucking sharp.
Jake and Logan Paul.
Fucking idiots.
Paul Daly.
As a coach, how many times have you been asked about this over the last couple of weeks? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Daly. Good guy. I like Daly.
Now, see, I want to see you. I would like to see you. I'd like to see you fight him on a Bellator UK card. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Would you fight him?
This fight excites me.
Yeah. Jack Shaw, who we're going to be talking about in a minute.
Composed, quality,
calm.
Yeah.
And then finally, Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, I love Canelo, man. You just seen him get better and better. Oh, one word. Class. Sorry, class.
Apparently, he's on Jake Paul's list of fighters he's going to fight. So there you go. You got that to look forward to, Lewis. Is Jake Paul versus Canelo Alvarez.
I think I would watch that.
I'd like to watch it, and I'd love it if Canelo Alvarez just chucked him in like a rear naked choke, or like just head kicked him or something.
Actually,
put an end to it.
Die, isn't he? He's actually gonna die.
Well, when he actually fights like a legitimate boxer, I am actually worried for his health, because at the moment he's fighting MMA fighters in boxing, and he's
fighting wrestlers, isn't he?
It's like, come on. Yeah. It is what it is, I guess. Lewis, gonna leave you go, mate, to get your tea. But
downtime.
Gotta go get your food. You gotta get to bed, mate, because you got your fight. People can watch your fight 1st of October on BBC iPlayer.
They can,
BBC live.
iPlayer,
like it. That's so good. I really gotta say I'm happy about that.
What a platform for the BBC viewers! Like, the
amazing,
viewers, you know, it's
amazing.
It's a platform, man.
I would hope that in the future they'll move it to like BBC Two as well, so people can watch it like live on TV and that as well. But it's a great thing, I gotta say. I hope they do the same. I'm hoping that I think Sky have signed them now, but I was hoping the One Championship was going to come to Channel 4 or ITV or something. But
what did I say? Hello?
He's back.
He's by my side all the time.
This is his 3rd appearance on the show. Legend.
He's been sat next to me all interview.
He's a legend.
I sail to my ears.
So Yeah, mate. Lewis, you'd have to come back and join us after your fight, and we can have a chat about it and that. Tell the people where they can find out information about the Matt Academy, mate.
Just sort of look at Matt Academy South Wales, or hit me up a message if you're interested in training or you're visiting a local area. Love to see you. And if you want to watch my fight, as we said, it's on BBC iPlayer, 1st of October. So you kick some guy's ass, like.
Excellent. Like, yeah. I want to get up to the Matt Academy, mate. Anyway, I want to come and have a look, have a nose around, mate, at some point. And have a chat.
Humble place, mate, you know.
It's not too far from me, mate, so I might come up and say hello one of these days. But ladies and gentlemen, this was Lewis Long, and we're going to leave him have his tea, and he's got to go to bed. He's got to get an early night today.
Bedtime.
Right.
Yep.
Cheers, Lewis. Appreciate your time, mate.
Good luck, Lewis.
Thank you very much, guys. Hey, peace
Cheers,
and love,
buddy.
guys.
Take it easy, my friend. Lewis Long, another top guest, mate. But for the people in the chat, we're not going anywhere because we're going to talk about the UFC from last night, the British invasion, mate. Wow. That was it. I was watching it, and I think it helped that we were able to watch it live because they put it on at a decent time. Because obviously it was supposed to be the UFC London card, and it had to be moved to Vegas because they couldn't get all the people over from America and stuff because of the travel restrictions. So it was just incredible to watch. I watched every fight from start to finish, all the prelims, everything, and it was just really special to see these fighters. And like there was four British fighters really made an impact for different reasons as well. And of course, best wishes to Modestas Bukauskas. It looked really nasty, that did, mate. His knee got those oblique kicks, which obviously John Jones made famous, but his leg just completely crumpled. It didn't look like I have no idea. You know probably more than me, but like it didn't look like it broke. It looked like it was more ligaments, which unfortunately can be worse. But obviously, you don't want to have a broken shin, kneecap, that sort of thing. So hopefully there was no dislocation or break there, and it's not too serious. But it looked nasty, mate, didn't it?
It did look nasty. But if you remember, I had a little bit of a rant about like the things that I felt was wrong with his game that I hope he put right. You know, he's not under my guidance anymore. But you know, last sort of discussion we had regards his game was, look, you got to put certain things right, and it was all about him being able to fight in the pocket. So he had a close range fighting capability to push people out into his kicking range, and also sorting out that knee line. He's got a turned in lead knee, and it's an absolute target, and it just presented itself. Any good team, any good fighter will see that his format in terms of his stance is wrong, and wrong for those reasons. You know, you're going to present targets to people, and it was nasty. It was horrible to see. I know how much Modestas is passionate for the success and for him to be in the UFC, but it's a brutal sport, not just because of the potential outcomes, but it's a brutal sport in terms of trying to deny what you want from it, and that is, there's lots of young, tenacious warriors in there, you know, equally wanting the same dream you want, and you got to get it all fall in place for it to suit your dream and for it to present itself, and it hasn't done for him, unfortunately. I don't know what the score is regards to career now. I know he had 4 fights on his career. He's lost 3 of those 4. One of them on a split decision. I don't know whether that, you know, it's enough to keep him in there. I don't know. But
and he took 2 incredibly difficult fights for someone new to the UFC to face Jimmy Crute, and then I forgot his name. Khalil Roundtree last night. Like, they're 2 incredibly difficult fights, even for someone who's settled and been in the UFC for a while.
Roundtree's beatable. You have to take this guy down. His jiu-jitsu is really not good, and his wrestling ain't the greatest in the world either. But again, if you've got a more correct form, you can fight in the pocket more. You're closer, and you're more accessible to potential for a takedown. Unfortunately, Modestas just couldn't put any real threats other than his long range striking, and it just lacks the attacking ranges in its entirety. In reference to MMA, it just couldn't chuck anything enough at him. But Bronson's well beatable. I think it was a good fight for Modestas to try to showcase that he is trying to advance his skill set. In the thought that I was thinking he was going to try and take Roundtree to the ground. I think if he could take him to the ground, he had a chance there. I really do feel that. But on the feet, it was always going to be a difficult proposition.
Yes. So we'll talk about the main two fights on the pre-show. I got to say, all three. Did you watch all the prelims, mate?
I think
did you see the Rosa versus Charles Jourdain fight, which finished with a Darce choke?
Yes, I did. I watched that.
Oh, mate, that finish!
Incredible fight. Yeah,
that finish was just.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Jourdain and Rosa, I really rate them both. They're very, very talented, tenacious fighters. Rosa was just able to ruffle Jourdain's feathers more often than the other way around. But what Jourdain was chucking at Rosa was really looking brutal at times. But Rosa just stayed in there. He just seemed to receive...
Set him up quite nicely, though.
Yeah, he just seemed to receive things better. And when he was getting his own stuff off, it began to look more visual. He just seemed to be getting slightly more successes with the input of energies that he was investing. And yeah, that finish was nice. It was... he kind of caught Jourdain being a little bit lazy on the scramble up and just left his head and arm in there. It was a little bit of a lazy get up, but Rosa's really proving to be quite something. This guy's got some striking behind him. He's got some cunning little wrestling moves, and he's got some nasty submissions now. So yeah, he's quickly becoming something. But Jourdain, he's definitely not a finished guy by any stretch. He lost to a better man that night, but he's someone that's definitely on the increment of improvements. And I really like what I saw from him. Just got to tidy up some of those transitions, such as getting from the ground back up to the feet. He's got to tidy up that because he gave his posture and gave away that head and arm positioning, which led to the choke.
It goes back to what we were saying, mate, at the top level, and even on the prelims of this show, like these top level fighters, you make a mistake, you get punished. He was a bit lazy getting up, and he got caught and he was gone straight away. And me, mate, I'm loving these kind of Darce chokes, and they're like almost like reverse chokes, aren't they? They're like under and all weird. As someone who's not completely, I know the kind of what they are, but I couldn't tell you about the ins and outs of putting them on and, all the technical side of it. But visually and watching the skill of it, these sort of Darce chokes and these extravagant chokes, they're really, you've got me like addicted to these grappling exchanges a lot. Whereas before I was like, I'd almost switch off a bit during the grappling because I was just watching and it wasn't what was exciting to me. But yeah. Woo! So the main two fights of the prelims, the co-main and the main, I guess, of the prelims. And this shows, by the way, one, how highly Dana White rates Paddy the Pimblett, that he was on the main card on his debut ahead of Jack Shaw and Molly McCann, who've, obviously been there a while. And Rosa and Charles Jourdain have been there a bit as well. So for Paddy to be on, for all those guys to be on the prelims and Paddy to be on the main card, I think shows how highly they rate him, which we'll discuss in a minute. But we had Jack Shaw defeated Ludwig Linian via unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. There was a couple of times where I thought Jack was going to finish it, particularly early on, but the composure and the skill that Jack Shaw shows every time he fights, and just his level of fitness, his level of skill in every department, whether it's wrestling, grappling, striking, it's just incredible. And he's now 15-0 as a professional. I think he's 4-0 in the UFC. And you could tell by the way the commentators were talking about him, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get a ranked fighter in his next fight. And even though he went 3 rounds, he didn't take any real damage. Yes, he had to have a bit of adversity, and he, none of these fights are going to be easy. But at no point did I fear that Jack Shaw was going to lose this fight.
No, Jack Shaw looked incredibly composed, mature. Again, something that I've always complimented about his game is his decision making. It's really to behold when you consider how young he is. You can't say inexperienced anymore because he's racking up on the old experience spectrum as well now.
He's young,
but it really does impress me. You got to remember as well, he was injured going into this fight. He had a torn bicep, I think it was that he said. Yeah, so and he felt it pop on him when he shot in his first wrestling exchanges. Yeah, and to still perform the way he done, I think he would have put this guy out of commission at some point in one of those 3 rounds had it hadn't been for that bicep tear that was plaguing him. But unless he had pointed that out, you would never have known, because he performed that well, and he's got such a broad skill set that he can do it with an injured limb. And we would have never have known it was that a good a performance. The way he delivered the combinations with his hands, the single head kicks and body kicks that he was putting in, and leg kicks as well. And this is something else that I think really impresses me, and something that's definitely needed for the lighter weight divisions, and that is to attack when you're throwing your kicks to all 3 areas, to the head, to the body, to the legs. You really got to keep that person guessing on where that leg's going to be landing when you're using it as an attacking tool. Otherwise, you could get set up for a counter takedown and counter hands. He just made it so hard for him to be predicted that Ludwig was just always guessing the whole time. Yeah. And then when Ludwig tried to do his own kick, Shaw just calmly picked up on it and tripped him down. It was just beautiful. It really, really was. It was a borderline faultless performance. Really, really was. Yeah. He's ready. I believe, in my mind, he could take on absolute anyone in that division and perform not only
this
well,
is something I want to discuss with you now.
So
there's one thing I just want to quickly say. He had a torn bicep, which he felt pop in the first round, and the fight went to decision. And I dare say maybe the injury contributed to him not being able to get the finish, maybe, that he wasn't able to push on. But it wasn't like a split decision or a close fight. He won 30-27 across the board, and he was just so dominant. To do that with a torn bicep is incredible. To have the composure, not the composure to make, like we know about his decision-making and when to, go for the finish, when to just play the game, like to be able to not panic, to be able to go through the pain of it and just do your job and dominate another professional is incredible, mate. Honestly, it says so much about him.
And I was really banging on about all his attacking skill, with his takedowns, his kicks, his delivery with his hands. But his defense is just equally as good as his attacking game. When Ludwig was trying to shoot in and try and do a takedown of his own, he's just so calm. It's as if, you can attempt your takedown. He just knew it was coming, knew exactly what to do to defend it, and did it with the most efficient energy. It was great. His father and his team must be absolutely ecstatic at his performance at this level, and I just wish him the best. Can't wait to see him fight again. If I could see him fighting again in the next few weeks, I'd be smiling from ear to ear.
That's it. That's the one. I think if it wasn't for that injury, I think he'd be in quite quickly, because he didn't take any damage. But with a torn bicep, I would have thought it'll be a couple of months before we see him fighting again. I would have thought. Well, you never know. In terms of who he should fight next, like obviously Michael Bisping and Cormier were saying, he's got to have a ranked fighter, which I agree with. But hear me out, but I'm sure they'll give him like rank 15 or rank 14, 13, someone lower down the rankings. Me, after seeing that performance with an injury, I'm going, no, do you know what? Let's give him Merab Dishvili if he wins his fight. Or let's give him Dominic Cruz, rank number 10. Or let's give him Pedro Munez, rank number 9. Let's see what we've got. Yeah. To me, I look at the names who are, and this is no disrespect to them, but you've got Song Yadong, I think is not available at the moment. Cody Starman, Marlon Vera, Rafael Asenko, Jack Shaw will beat all those guys, in my opinion, quite comfortably. So. Whereas Merab, Dominic Cruz, Pedro Munez, even Frankie Edgar up at 8, I feel that they are a legitimate challenge, like where you can look at it and think, all right, yes, Jack's been incredible. Let's see how he goes against these guys. And I think if you remember about a year ago, I pitched to you they should just give him a legend killer gimmick and just give him all the legends of that division, because there's so many. Give him the Edgars and the Garbrandts and all these legendary, the Aldos, and just have him tear through them. That's how you create a superstar. Yeah. Because I really believe that he's capable of beating all those guys I just mentioned. And I know people who are not familiar with him maybe will say, "Oh, come on, you're just hyping it. You're being biased or whatever." But I look, how much more does he need to do in that cage before people will take him legitimately serious as a threat to that top 10?
Yeah, look, the fighters that are in the know now, and they'll be watching this kid, and they'll be beginning to shake in their very MMA gloves, knowing that this guy is ready to challenge anyone. And I really agree with you. I would like to see him fight within that top 10, maybe anything from 11 and above, to 8, I think would not be a step out of place in the progression with the kind of skill set that we've been seeing him put on display. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. There was a tweet by who was it? I'm gonna have to find. I will tell you who it was. It was someone from another division, a fighter, someone who's in quite highly thought of. I can't remember who it was. I think it was might have been Belal Muhammad. I might be wrong about that, but basically before Jack's fight, said Jack Shaw's a problem, like as if to say, this guy's the real deal. So there's nothing in that fight would have changed that mind. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do with Jack next, because he couldn't have done any more in that fight to show what he's about. So next up was Molly McCann, mate. Sorry, I was going to say, just with the rankings, I don't want to see him fight. I'm not looking at the top 15. I want to see him fight top 10 fighters. Because I believe that's the best way to, one, build your next superstar of the division, and two, from a promotional point of view, and two, he's shown that he's he's skillful enough to do that. Let's be honest. So yeah, it's gonna be good. So then next up on the card was the Scouse lady, Molly McCann. She was coming in off a couple of defeats. She admitted herself that this was like almost make or break for her. She had to do something special from a aesthetic point of view in terms of, making sure that she was an exciting fight as well as getting the victory. And one thing's for sure, mate, this was most definitely an exciting fight. Yeah, she made it exciting. She just put her foot down on that gas pedal and did not stop. At times almost looking untidy because of how much she was trying to make an impression for the fight itself, not only to get the result, but I think because she pushed such a hard pace and she did it the way she did it, I think it stopped Kim from being composed and being technical, where I think she's at her most dangerous. I think if you give someone like Kim the space to work technically, she'll give anyone in the top 10 a hard fight. But the fact that McCain just kept it ruffled, kept it scrappy, kept really pushing through. There was a lot of McCain was doing was missing, but she was likewise making Kim miss a lot. Kim just couldn't get herself settled, and McCain just putting on the grind. It really, really was.
She was crazy. The end of that fight was crazy, mate. The way it was smashing each other's face in and just screaming at each other.
She knew how important this fight was. You could just see it in her whole demeanor. She was just wanting to leave it all in there, come what may. And she did enough to get the judge's decision. I think it was the right decision. When she fights in the future, though, I do want to see her still improve her skill set of her transitions. I still want to see her making good decisions and not just proving that she's a tough chick. We know she's a tough chick. We know that she can leave it all in there, but I just want to see her become more of a martial artist, along with that ingrained tenacity that we clearly see on display numerous times. But she must fight smart to beat these higher ranked girls, to get really truly back on that progression chart, and to be respected by the other female fighters in that division, because there's some good female fighters in that division.
Oh yeah. She was not going to let that fight fizzle out in the last 30 seconds. She was screaming at Kim to keep going, and they just it was so entertaining to watch. And then we started the main card with the debut that we've been waiting for. Friend of the channel, friend of the show, Paddy the Baddie Pimblett made his UFC debut, and as expected, he picked up the victory. But it wasn't completely smooth sailing initially. He came, he started well, and then he got caught, and you just wondered, were you going to get a bit of a shock? But as Paddy says, Scousers don't get knocked out, and he remained very composed, and he took what the guy gave him, and then he just starched him with a TKO with about 30 seconds of the first round left. But impressive, mate, from a number of aspects.
Yeah. To me, Paddy Pimblett that night, he's like a box of fireworks. Fireworks initially there to put on a great performance for people to watch and smile and to woo at. But sometimes a box of fireworks can be deadly too. And that's kind of how I see him. I see some great work. I didn't see perfect work. I actually believe there was a little bit of nerves in there. His chin definitely did drift up, and his chin definitely got caught a few times. And Luigi was looking good. And I was thinking, wow, this could be a difficult first fight, and back as that first round was unfolding. But like I say, Paddy being Paddy, if he gets an inkling that he's breaking you in any way, shape or form, he's going to go for the kill and put everything he can into to getting the finish. And he did exactly that, really. He rocked Luigi briefly and just did not let him off the hook. Now, like I say, his chin was drifting up, didn't particularly like that. His hands were okay, but they weren't perfect in my mind, partly because of the chin positioning as he delivered his punches. But what I did like was his kicks. Now, I think the kicks is what really was his saving grace. I think it kept Luigi occupied enough that he couldn't open up on Paddy enough to really threaten to put him away. And he didn't stop digging with those kicks, and I think that was a really good call for him to keep that going, and it kept him in there long enough that once he did start to tag Luigi, obviously he went for the kill, and it was emphatic. I'm really happy for him, but definitely got things to work from. As he moves up those ranks, he will not be getting away with having that kind of high chin set.
So with that, do you think there's a couple of things? I think one, that's not something we normally see from Paddy. So it could have been like a nervous energy, anxiety type deal where he was clearly looking to finish in the first round and make a statement. Like he had said in the build-up, first round, he wanted to, and he knew that he needed to announce his arrival in the way that he did finish it. But it's not so, like he's normally, his hands are tight, his chin is tucked, and that's why he's so dangerous, because he's so good at everything. So I do feel like maybe that was why his chin was a bit exposed, and also I feel like with the coaching, the coaches that and the team that he's got, I believe that they would have adjusted that at the end of the round. If it had gone that extra 30 seconds, they would have said, keep your chin tucked and get your hands up and whatnot, because they're a very, very good team. But what he did show is that if you give him an opportunity to finish the fight, it's going to be game over. I anticipated that he was going to finish with a submission, just because that's what he's done recently. Because his jiu-jitsu and his grappling game is so quick and strong. Like he's so quick to hit those submissions, those flying triangles, rear naked chokes and stuff, that it's almost, again, like we said numerous times in the show, if guys make a mistake against him in a grappling situation, it's game over very quick. He's almost on you. He's almost on you before you even realize that, he's going for this submission. Whereas he obviously finished it. He showed he's got power in his hands to finish fights. So it's certainly interesting. I think the fact he was, like I said, on the main card and he opened the show, to me says that I would be very surprised if he doesn't get quite a big fight next time out. Just going to have a look at the lightweight division, because I think it won't be long before he is in fighting someone from the rankings. And also, what I found quite interesting is that he said about, obviously this was supposed to be a London show, and he said, do a London show. And UFC they'll do a London show as soon as they can. That's the second time they've had to sort of postpone a London show now. It's clear they're going to put it on. And Paddy seemed to be intimating that he should be in the co-main event or the main event. And when you look at what happened later on in the night in the main event, and you look at some of the who are the British fighters, who are the biggest British fighters in the UFC that could main event a UFC London card, you've got Arnold Allen, of course, is right up there in the rankings, and you've got I've forgotten his name, Rocky, Leon Edwards. They would be the two for me that straight away probably main event, because they're so high in the rankings. Then you've got obviously Corey McKenna, you've got Jack Shaw, you've got Paddy Pimblett. There's no reason why those guys wouldn't co-main event a UFC London card. But if you're going to co-main event a card, you have to fight a co-main event opponent.
Yeah.
So to me, it would only be technically, if we're saying that it's going to be relatively soon, it would be Paddy's second fight in the UFC. Would they give him that co-main event slot this early? Who knows? And if they were, who would they put him against? It's very difficult to predict. Whereas Jack Shaw,
too soon.
Yeah. Whereas Jack is, you could put him in against Dominic Cruz or one of the names we mentioned. That is that's a co-main event slot. That card, by the way, could be insane. UFC London, if some of the plans that they seem to have, could be incredible stuff. But we'll see. Got lots of fights to talk, so I want to fly through them because we've also got some questions for you, mate, as well. We talked about Modestus's fight. I was so disappointed for him because I knew it was going to be a difficult fight. It didn't go his way, and of course, then the injury finishes it. Khalil Roundtree is no mug. And then we had Alex Morono defeated David Zawada via unanimous decision. This was the one fight where I was a bit in and out of it. So I didn't see all of it. So I'll leave this one to you.
Yeah. Really good fight. I really enjoyed watching it. David Zawada was performing really, really well. I felt like he was slightly more clinical, a little bit tighter with his striking and his defense. Morono was perhaps putting a little bit more in, really swinging his hands at times. But he just seems to always get the job done, and he just seems to work really well, and he makes it very, very difficult for someone to seem to be able to shine, to take it from the judges if it goes as far as the judges. He's very, very good at making it so that your eyes being cast onto him on what he's doing, probably because of those swinging overhand. They are borderline windmill punches at times. Not all of them cracking home, but it made you look very closely in case one did. I mean, Morono, he's just tenacious, gritty. He just works hard within the match. He can wrestle some, and I feel like it was a closer fight than perhaps it looked. Regards, the judges all going in Morono's favour. I think David did very, very well in certain areas, but there were some times where he also made really bad choices. There was times that he shot in and then took himself to his back, and he just broke form, even though he was the one predominantly looking tired. He just made a couple of suspect decisions that got him unnecessary trouble. Morono was able to capitalise on that, and I think that's perhaps what edged some of those rounds in Morono's favour. But yeah, it was an okay fight. It wasn't the best one to watch in the world, but Morono, he gets another victory, because I think he had a good few victories in a row. Then he had a loss, didn't he? And I think he's come back now with another victory or two. So, he's lingering around, he's floating around that top tier of division. He could perhaps step up again and give him another chance of taking on someone of sort of like real note.
Yes, it was. I like Alex Morano. Then we had the heavyweights, mate. Ranked 13, Tom Aspinall, the Brit, versus Sergei Spivak, ranked 14, and Tom Aspinall looks the real deal. He's so big, so strong, knockout power, but he's also good at wrestling and grappling, and he just looks formidable. And I think being a heavyweight always makes these guys look more formidable, of course, because there's just beasts. But he looks the real deal, mate. Sergei Spivak is no mug. Sergei Spivak has been around the block, of course. But if you're going to knock Sergei Spivak out, then you have to have power behind your shots. Aspinall, he looks really thick and dense, doesn't he? He's built like a caveman, and you know that anything that he's doing in there is going to potentially really hurt. Spivak looked uncomfortable in there. It's like he knew he possessed some horrible, frightful power. And Spivak got knocked off balance numerous times in some exchanges, not because of the impact of the shot regards to knocking his equilibrium out or anything, but just like the stature of Aspinall. Spivak just didn't look comfortable and started to rise up and get tall. And that's when Aspinall caught him with that punch, and it was sort of like a delayed reaction that made him fall to his bum before the final little flurry. Aspinall's just so calm as well. Although there's a little sense of urgency that he wants to get work done, he's not willing to take stupid risks to do it, and always looked like he was reserving something, but not in a way where you're frustrated. Woodley was someone that really frustrated me. Someone who's got so much potential to be an athlete. But Aspinall, he does it, but gives you enough all the time. And to me, that's a really exciting sort of style to have, particularly in that heavyweight division, because as you know, in heavyweights, you make a mistake, you're going to get knocked the hell out. I just feel like he's really limiting the potential mistakes that can happen in that heavyweight division. He really is aware of the potential dangers of what the opponent can do, but not in a way where it's holding back from his own work rate, which is needed to get to success. Is really impressing me. Yes, mate. And that's what I like about it. He's not getting, everyone else is getting excited about him. He's not getting too excited. He is basically just saying, I just want to keep fighting the guys above me and just keep working my way up. But when you look at the names there, Walt Harris and Sakai, Tybura, Rosenstruck, like you can make it. If he knocks those guys out along the way, you're just making this huge name for yourself just by doing what he said, which is just working his way up. So,
yeah, I love it. The way he's conducting himself in these interviews. I love the way that he's forecasting his, potential in the division. He's not one of these guys who are shouting for the belt prematurely, which we've seen so many times. I mean, it's kind of like almost boring when you see a fighter sort of like jumping up and down, gesturing, put the belt around my waist after a couple of wins. This guy is just wanting to chip away, move up the ranks steady. He's got no qualms or resentments to be taking his time. I love it. And he fights how he talks, if you know what I mean. He talks about his career in this progressive, steady way, and he fights that way. And I think this guy's a future champion. I really do believe it.
Yes, mate. It's exciting, mate, because we haven't had a British heavyweight champion in the UFC. We haven't really had a British heavyweight contender, really a proper one with this. And like Tom Aspinall's got the skills to pay the bills. He's not just a knockout artist. Like he can wrestle and grapple as well. Yeah. Which to me, when I look at that heavyweight division, and just not necessarily talking about Tom Aspinall, but just as skills go, I look at it and a lot of them are like knockout artists. Obviously Stipe's very good at wrestling, grappling. Derek Lewis can wrestle. Curtis Blades wrestle, maybe. Volkov. Mm-hmm. And then outside of that, I'm looking and I'm thinking, can you imagine like a really equipped grappler, a heavyweight, going up against some of those guys, like they would just not know what to do.
Yeah,
because they don't
agreed.
come up against it. So
Yep.
it's exciting. The main event of the evening was a middleweight bout between Derek Brunson, who was on an absolute tear, age 37, and Darren Till, ranked 7, the Scouser, who has been on a bit of a resurgence as he's changed division. But Derek Brunson continued his incredible form. Look, I haven't always been a massive fan of Derek Brunson's work, but you cannot deny that this last year or so, he has just been stacking up the wins in impressive fashion. And he just did a phenomenal job of when Darren Till started to get his left hand going, when he looked really dangerous, Brunson just would take him down and just wear him down. And he did a great job of doing it and eventually got the submission. I felt for Darren Till a bit because Darren Till looked really dangerous on the feet, but you had to expect that Derek Brunson was going to go for the takedowns. And I don't know whether he wasn't prepared or Derek Brunson was just too good. I wouldn't like to say. It was just unfortunate. Derek Brunson just looks in the form of his life, which is strange because he's obviously 37, but he just looks dangerous.
Yeah, Derek Brunson, I feel like, has really established a style in his game to get the job done round by round, fight by fight, and he's found that winning formula. He knows where he's got to head to get that victory. With Darren Till, he did many things right, but not everything right. And I'm going to be talking about the anti-wrestling aspects. When you want to anti-wrestle someone, you don't want to be locking horns with someone, really. And there were times he was doing some great striking, but just got fixated into fixed piece positions a little bit too soon each round for my liking against Derek Brunson, and therefore was getting himself put on his back. But the other aspect of anti-wrestling is not only do you ideally not want to get locking horns on the feet, but if you do and you do get put down, it's having the ability to use the fence to get back to your feet. He did not show any desires to use the fence to get back to his feet, which goes to show for me that it wasn't part of his training and it's not part of his skill format for whatever reasons, whether it's the camp's fault, his fault, a combination of his team and him. But that was bizarre to me. He took way too much damage, was spending way too much time on his back, not doing the right type of thing against that type of opponent. He should have been using the fence, scrambling up, and that would have floated a lot of Bronson's damage from top position. It would have stopped a lot of it, just the attempts by using the cage. When you go up against the cage, you sit your back up against it, and then your head's not in a position to be ground and pounded upon. But he stayed on his back against a powerful dude. So really, for me, Till was just lacking strategically. And perhaps with his little technical know-how and choices regards what anti-wrestling really is all about. He put some aspects of the anti-wrestling in, but not all of them in its entirety to take away the skill set of someone as good as Derek Brunson. But look, you can only fight what you've got in front of you. I'm not going to take anything away from Derek Brunson just because, in my mind, Darren Till didn't perform the best that I feel that he could do. He looked plenty dangerous on the feet, but was unable to keep it there. But yes, Derek Brunson, he gets wins. He keeps getting wins. And yes, it's in the latter part of his career, but I think it's because he's established a sequence of expectancies of needs within each round, within each fight, and he knows how to get there and he knows how to keep getting those results. I'm really happy for the guy, but especially to do it this late on in his career. 37, going to be clicking over to 38 at sometime.
He's literally, it's like his every fight is in last chance saloon, isn't it? Because if he loses the fight, he's gonna
slip out of it. But
he won't get his title shot, basically.
No, but look, let's not ruin the guy's run. He's doing really, really well. He's doing it in fact.
Well, no, that's what's making it exciting.
Yeah, really against dangerous opponents as well. Darren Till is no mug, and he's got plenty of knockouts on his record to show that he's fighting top tier guys for good reasons. But Derek Brunson's getting the job done, and he keeps doing it the same sort of way. So it's for other people to figure out, what is he doing? How is he doing it? And someone's got to try to figure out to try to stop him getting the process for which is clearly, it's not a secret what he wants. It's a clear process of what he wants in each round, what he wants in each fight to get those victories. And it seems that no one's able to fathom out how to get around it.
Yeah, and that middleweight division is a killer of a division. Really is. There's no easy fight in that top 15. Like literally all the way down to 15. You've got like the likes of Kevin Holland and Chris Weidman and Shabazian and people like this. Uriah Hall. Darren Till, what's next for him? Do you think he's going to have to build himself back up? I guess
he is. Yeah,
I'd quite like to see him fight like Kelvin Gastelum. I think that could be quite an interesting fight. Or I think you nailed it. I think this would be great because Gastelum's both had a little bit of successes, and he's also had plenty of of fouls in recent times. And you could argue that Darren Till is going through the exact same process in his career. I think this would be a great fight stylistically and a great fighting opportunity from both to either get one or either of their fight careers back on track, and for whoever loses, they got to be sniffing the barrel and maybe being cut. It's not an easy division, as you say, and Dana White, if you start not getting your results, you're going to be out very, very quickly. So I think Darren Till versus Gastelum is a dream match stylistically to watch, and I think it's perfect for both their careers, from where their position sits for either of them. I think they sit in a very, very similar position. What's their Darren Till was I think a little bit higher ranked, wasn't he? Yeah. So Till's 7th at the moment, and Gastelum's 9th.
All right. So yeah, I mean they're almost side by side. I think they will be after these results settle in. They'll be side by side, and I think that'd be a great fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the way to go. And then just before we go, I'm going to finish off with some questions from the live chat, mate, for you. Yep. But just before we do go to that, I wanted to talk about a very sad story from the world of boxing. 18-year-old Mexican boxer Jeanette Zapata died after she was knocked out. I think it was last week, 5 days, so last weekend, at a international show at Montreal. She was dazed after a left uppercut and a right hook. She appeared to have a seizure then in the ring, and she was it didn't look good for a few days. But unfortunately, she passed away, and obviously all of the WBC and the relevant boxing authorities have all made statements in that. But just as a show, I wanted to pass on our condolences and everything to the world of boxing and to the friends and families of Jeanette. Obviously, it's incredibly sad situation, and it goes to show again the risk that these fighters put under. No matter how many safety precautions could be put in place, these fighters are taking their life into their own hands every time they fight. It's dangerous, and such a young girl starting out, not just her career but her life, is incredibly sad. And by all accounts, she was quite a highly rated fighter as well. But it's 18 is of course no age whatsoever. No, so I wanted to mention that, mate. Yeah. Very, very sad.
Any death in any sport's sad, especially when it's done actually performing in the sports that they get known for. But such a young age, that's kind of cruel. But yeah, you're right. You summed it up. They're putting themselves on the line for entertainment of others. It's part and parcel. Yeah. It's part of the sadness that
part of those risks, I suppose, isn't it? Every time you go in. Yeah, sad, mate, sad. So we'll finish off with some questions which the guys have been throwing in as we've been going along. Just about your career and stuff like that. I was very impressed with Reese asked when we were talking earlier. Yeah, he said, "What's a rear naked choke?" He said he doesn't get some of these names, and before I saw it, Donna, then who's been researching and watching the fights, she watched a lot of the fights last night. She explained to him what it was, choking from behind with a bare hand. Which I thought was great stuff. That shows the people they're learning as they go along each week, which I love. I just love that they're taking it on themselves to watch the fights and learn more about the sports, which is phenomenal. So let's have a look at these questions. Donna says Paddy the Baddy is an animal. Let's have a look. I'm trying to find more. There's so many. Right. Dave Short was in earlier as well. He says he was shocked at the level of fitness when he came into the MMA game. He was a British judo champion at the time, and the guys were something else in terms of fitness, especially Danny. And Donna also then replied to that and said, I thought Danny was a softie until I saw some of those fights. British judo champion is amazing. Yeah, Dave Short has been a really good contributor the last few weeks to these shows. Really pleased to have him on board. Right, Danny, Reese says, Danny, how were you the night before a fight? Could you sleep or would you be nervous, restless, anxious?
Yeah, as I become more experienced, no, I sort of like had a routine, and I'd go to sleep and I would sleep fine. It was not an issue for me at all. The nerves, as you get more experience, just kick in closer and closer to the fight. When I say closer and closer, literally, hearing your name being called and you're coming out of that warm-up room. You learn to, sort of, I wouldn't say ignore it. You put it behind some emotions, and I don't know, you just contain it somehow. And it sort of like displays itself as you get in there. But what I did notice, I would get nerves in two ways, or in two different timelines. And that would be, I'd probably get more nervous when my manager used to call me to say, hey, we might have an opponent 6 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, and it's so-and-so. I'd probably have more dread and like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. And I knew it was going to be a tough one. And I would go through all the doubts, literally, the first 48 hours of finding out that I was going to have an opponent and we're waiting to sign things up than I did going in on a fight day. And I think partly because I knew what I used to put into my training, and I was very, very confident in myself, in my training partners, in my management, that by the time I was fighting in there, it didn't matter who I was up against. I felt that I was going to win. So that used to take away some of the nerves for me. But certainly, yeah, I think that's the best way I could sum it up, really. I'd have more nerves when I've got that name, and I'd be like, oh God, I'm going to be doing it again.
Interesting. I like it, mate. I like it. Dave says Danny was a monster.
Yeah, I remember, I touched on Dave Short, didn't I? A few weeks ago, I noticed that his name kept showing up on there, and fought the likes of Ian Freeman, but judo actually is a very, very difficult physical sport, and one of the most tiring ranges of martial arts that anyone could put themselves through. But to appreciate what Dave means when you're saying about how fit these MMA guys are, I think we kind of like touched on it a little bit with Gary Tonon. Saying that, he's a super fit athlete, an elite athlete in the grappling arts, but he felt like he was always in an absolute, fight for his life when he was training or fighting MMA. And it's very much learning to compose yourself and knowing where and how to relax by understanding the sport that you're getting involved with. It's the same for MMA, to be honest. I think I was very, very lucky in that I had some big exposure from, guys with many years of experience, such as Lee Asdell at the time. I mean, he really was a pioneer of MMA, and it was on my doorstep to get training alongside him, and he was massive on fitness as well. So I think I had just had an advantage of knowing how to compose myself and be fit in combination. And I remember like Dave Short, and he's a real big guy, really being gassed out, and I had loads of energy. I was in my prime. I think I started MMA when I was about 26 years old, and I was very, very big, like I say, on cardio as well. And I just think I have a calm nature in chaos anyway. I think when it's all going down, there's something inside me that just, I don't know, just stays calm and focused. Yes, I've got that angry side and I've got that passionate side, but regards my cardio and my composure inside, I'll do what it takes to stay in there to get the win.
Good shout, mate. Reese says on Paddy the Paddy Bimbler, he said because it was his debut on the UFC and the big stage, maybe it was the whole experience of the event playing on his mind a little bit, which made him, make a little bit of an error with his chin, and just it could be anything like that, couldn't it? Really, I think no matter how confident he is in his own ability, there's bound to be some nerves there because Cage Warriors, as good and as quality as the fighters are, is UFC's a whole different level, even without the fans, like a full house, even with it being in the performance center, it's still just a whole, like the media, everything, the build up to the fights would have been new to him, no matter how confident he is. So, of course, there's nerves there, regardless of how confident you are.
Yeah, he's a human being, and you're going to experience some sort of tensions in there, especially when it's your first experience at that sort of level. And that wasn't an easy introduction opponent-wise either. That guy is proper dangerous on the feet, proper dangerous grappler as well. Never really has any real obvious holes in his game. And Paddy's never entirely impressed me with his striking, to be honest. So I'm not surprised his chin lifted because of the way he strikes anyway. But he definitely needs to perhaps be paying that some kind of attention, because there'll be other fighters higher up that will be looking at that and giving a bit of confidence that they got something to work on, because no matter how much you're willing to be in there and taking punches, it's only going to take one particular one that's going to end that night for you.
The thing is, though, mate, is like he will rewatch that fight with the commentators mentioning it. His team will watch it, so you'd expect it to be dealt with, because it's not something that we've noticed in previous fights. So that says to me that it's probably to do with the occasion more than anything.
More so than
we'll
anything else.
See. Donna says, who was your fighting hero growing up?
The two main ones I used to love watching, Hicks and Gracie. These are, when I mention these two names, I'm really talking about times that MMA was still in massive developments in terms of an athlete becoming a complete fighter. And the other one was a guy called Marco Ruiz. I really loved watching him. He was probably one of the very, very earliest world-class guys in every realm. You could, wrestle with really good wrestlers. You could grapple with any grappler and make exchanges there. And equally on the feet, he could strike with any world-class striker. Marco Ruiz was a real sensation of his time. But the Bas Rutten, I still love watching Bas Rutten. Frank Shamrock, I still love watching Frank Shamrock perform. There's been many fighters that have had influences on me. I still maintain that probably one of the best we've ever seen in modern times is GSP. I think this is a guy that not only was technically very, very good, but he not only demonstrated being world-class in all the realms, striking, wrestling and grappling, but he also strategized to beat someone who's stronger in any one of those areas. So he's up against a better wrestler. He would out-wrestle him because he used the striking to set himself up to out-wrestle the wrestler, and so on and so forth. Really knew how to strategize the sport.
Here we go. Donna says she wants a day pass for an MMA gym for Christmas. Donna, Lewis has got his gym, which is relatively close to Cardiff. Jack Shaw and his dad have got a gym up in Abertillery. There's a few big gyms, all really good stuff. Danny's gym's a bit far away. It's in Northampton. Milton Keynes, actually, isn't it?
Northampton. Northampton. Yeah, it's based in just off the M1, so it's quite accessible for people if they are sort of within the. If you're within the vicinity of sort of Northampton Street, it's very, very straightforward to get to, just off the M1.
Indeed. Guys, let us know what you think of the new intro as well, with all the guests flipping up on the screen. Always looking for feedback. I'm going to play with some of the audio a little bit because I don't like the middle bit, but I will. Last question. Reese says, Danny, how easy or hard did you find it to switch from fight mode to everyday guy or family guy, if that makes sense? I know some fighters have said it's hard to make that switch when you're with your family, etc., and then you go into killer mode, as it were.
Nah, not for me. I've always seen it as a sport. I've said numerous times before in previous podcasts, to me, there's very few times you'll ever really, truly fight in your life. And that's if someone's trying to mug you at knife point, you're trying to defend your family, or you get sick. And, to me, they're real fights for your life. For me, I just did a combat sport, maybe because I did it from being a child, that it just seemed so natural to me. And you do just switch into different gears. It's like, I go into work mode when I'm in work. Suddenly I want to switch on, and I know I've got to get certain things done, and I switch into work mode. And yeah, it comes with the environment you're in. When you sit in the car, you pay attention, you drive, just switch into a different mindset, and you concentrate on doing what needs to be done whilst you're in the car, and dealing with other road users and so on and so forth. So yeah, I never had any difficulty at all. All through my fight career, I was a family man with 2 young children growing up, and they would very much be part of my progress in the fight game, in that they would come up and watch daddy train and so on and so forth. So yeah, no, it was not a problem for me at all.
Good stuff. Okay, so we are back next week, and we have a real treat, another real treat, should I say, next week. To follow on from Bellator fighter Lewis Long, this evening we have Jack Shaw's father and coach, Richard Shaw, joining us live next week, which is an absolute treat to get him a week after Jack's been so impressive in the UFC.
That's amazing.
It's really good. I'm really looking forward to it. And then the week after that, we have Welsh boxer Cody Davis joining us as well. So really excited for the next few weeks. It's going to be good. So join us 8 o'clock. Let's get it going. Spread the word. Most of all, guys, can you do me a huge favor? Number one, follow and like the Danny Batten Fight Show Facebook page, which has now been set up and is new. So it's only got like 20 odd followers, because it's literally been set up in the mere hours ago. But also, if you could invite all your friends it's just 2 clicks, go to community and click and send, and everyone gets a notification to help us grow. And also because Facebook is not letting me do that, so I can't invite all the people who follow A.C.E Podcast Nation to follow it in one click for some reason, but I'm sure I'll work it out eventually. But yeah, guys, give that a follow. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be back next week. Let's play this awesome entrance exit video again with some of the incredible episodes that you can go back and watch, including the likes of Paddy the Paddy Pimblett twice, Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. We got Lewis Long. I'm trying to think of all the guests we've had on. Arnold Allen from the UFC. Modestus, who fought last night, has been on a couple of times. All sorts of guests. Go back and have a listen. Incredible interviews. But we'll be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow with a new episode of Me, Myself, and I, if you'd like to join that for a talk about whatever I feel like talking about. We'll see. Join me, 7:30 or 7 o'clock. I can't remember. One of them.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Yeah.